My name is Alina, and I am 47 years old. Years ago, I worked as a housekeeper for a family so wealthy that their home looked like something out of a dream. Tall windows let in golden light, the floors gleamed, and the garden outside stretched wider than any home I had ever known. I dusted the furniture, scrubbed the floors, and helped prepare meals in a kitchen bigger than my childhood house. The family who lived there was James, the father, Claire, the mother, and their small son, Noah. I loved that job. For the first time in years, I felt safe. I truly believed I would grow old serving that family. Their home was filled with beautiful, expensive things. Golden lamps lined the hallways, silver plates sat in glass cabinets, and rare paintings hung on every wall. Claire adored her jewelry, rings that sparkled, necklaces that caught the light, but nothing meant more to her than a single gold watch. She wore it every single day and never once let it out of her sight. I understood how precious it was to her, so whenever I cleaned her room, I was careful, almost reverent, around her things. Then one morning, everything fell apart. Claire announced that her gold watch was gone. She tore through her bedroom, the kitchen, even the garden, searching every corner. She questioned everyone in the house, and then her eyes landed on me. I told her honestly that I hadn't seen it. She stared at me for a long, cold moment, and something in her gaze had already changed. Later that day, James called me into the living room. Claire stood beside him, her face unreadable. Little Noah hid behind her legs, peeking out nervously. James's voice was sharp and final. He said they couldn't find the watch anywhere and that the trust they once had in me was gone. I opened my mouth to defend myself, but no words came out. James told me to leave and never come back. Claire wouldn't even look at me. Noah stayed silent, confused by what was happening. I packed my small suitcase with trembling hands. I wanted to cry, but I held the tears back with everything I had. Walking out of that grand house, I sat down on a bench along the street with nowhere to go. People passed by in a blur, and not a single one stopped. I thought about the happy years I had spent inside those walls. I thought about Noah's tiny hands and the sound of his laughter in the mornings. I kept asking myself why they believed I would ever steal from them. I had been kind. I had been honest. I had loved that house as if it were my own, and still, they threw me away without a shred of proof. I sat on that bench for hours as the sun slowly sank behind the buildings. Cold crept into my bones, exhaustion weighed on my shoulders, and loneliness settled into my chest. I had no home, no family left in the city, and my suitcase held only a few clothes and a handful of coins. My legs ached as I finally forced myself to walk, eventually finding another bench near a small park. It was hard and uncomfortable, but at least it was somewhere to rest. I closed my eyes that night, my heart still heavy, missing my little room in that grand house, missing Noah's giggles at breakfast. In a single day, I had lost everything. The next morning, I woke up early with a sore back and dirt on my clothes, my hair a tangled mess. I used my last few coins to buy a small piece of bread from a nearby cafe. The woman behind the counter eyed me coldly as I ate slowly by the window. Later, I walked through the market, asking anyone if they needed help. Most said no. Some didn't even bother to answer. One man simply told me to get lost. I kept trying anyway, though I could feel my heart cracking piece by piece. Still, I forced myself to keep moving. That afternoon, I returned to the same spot near the park, my whole body aching, my spirit crushed. My mind drifted back to the family again, to Noah bringing me flowers, to the small moments of warmth I once had. I wondered if they missed me at all or if I had already been forgotten. Suddenly, I heard someone calling my name. I looked up. Claire was running toward me, her face flushed, a long coat wrapped around her, and something small and shining clutched in her hand. My heart pounded. I rose slowly to my feet, unsure of what to say. She stopped right in front of me and held out the gold watch. Claire told me they had found it. It had slipped behind a chair and stayed hidden until they moved the furniture to clean. Her face was streaked with tears as she said she was sorry, that they had made a terrible mistake. I looked at her, then down at the watch in her hand. Relief washed over me. I wasn't a thief after all, but underneath it, an old ache remained. I remembered how quickly they had doubted me, how easily they had cast me out. Claire begged me to come back. She said Noah cried for me every night, but I stood there, silent and still. She said James felt just as guilty, that they wanted me home again, my room, my job, my bed, all waiting. They promised never to doubt me again. Her voice shook and her eyes pleaded, but something inside me had gone cold. I remembered that long, freezing night on the street. I remembered the way they had looked at me that day. Trust, once broken, is not so easily repaired. Claire slipped the watch back into her pocket and said she understood that she only wanted me to know the truth. I listened to every word, but I said nothing back. I picked up my suitcase and walked away. I heard her calling my name behind me, but I never turned around. I needed a fresh start on my own terms. Walking further down the street, I passed a small shop with bright, cheerful windows. A woman inside was arranging loaves of bread into baskets, her hands quick but her face warm and kind. I lingered at the doorway for a moment before stepping inside to ask if she needed any help. I told her I could clean and carry things. Her name was Rosa, and she owned the bakery with her husband. Daniel studied my face and my worn clothes for a long moment before finally saying I could clean in the mornings. Rosa explained the pay would be modest, but I would have food to eat and a small room behind the bakery to sleep in. My eyes filled with tears as I whispered, "Thank you." The room was simple, just a bed, a table, and one small window, but it was safe, and that was more than enough. I sat on the edge of the bed that first night, my body exhausted but my heart feeling just a little stronger. I slept soundly for the first time in days. The next morning I woke early, washed my face, and fixed my hair. I swept the floors, wiped down the tables, and cleaned the windows until they shone. Rosa smiled at my work, and Daniel handed me a piece of warm, fresh bread. Happiness crept back into my life. I wasn't lost anymore. Someone believed in me again. One day, Rosa sat beside me and gently asked about my past. I told her a little of it. She listened without judgment, then said something I'll never forget. Good people get hurt sometimes, even when they've done nothing wrong. Her words settled something in me, and I began to smile more often. One afternoon, I spotted Noah and Claire walking past the bakery window. Noah waved at me cheerfully. Claire offered a sad, faint smile before they continued on their way. I stood frozen by the glass, wanting to call out to them, but I didn't. I wasn't the same woman I used to be. My whole life had shifted. Rosa noticed the look on my face, but never pried. She simply smiled and asked, "Do you feel safe here?" I smiled back at her. Not everyone needs to know your past. What matters is the life ahead. The days passed, and the bakery grew busier. One afternoon, Daniel handed me a small envelope, my very first week's pay. Pride swelled in my chest as I tucked it away safely, dreaming of one day having a small place to call my own. My heart still carried old scars, but I felt stronger than ever. I had lost so much, yet somehow I had found peace, hope, and a new kind of family. I was grateful for this second chance at life. Then one evening, I found a letter addressed to me. It was from Claire. She wrote about Noah, about how much she missed me, about her deep regret. She asked if she could come visit sometime. I held that letter in my hands, and I swore I could hear her voice in every line. That night, I showed the letter to Rosa. She simply said, "Follow your heart." Her words stayed with me long after. The next morning, I put on my best dress and packed a small bag before walking to that grand house one more time. Claire opened the door, and Noah came running straight into my arms. I broke down in tears. We sat together in the garden, and Claire apologized again and again, saying they never should have doubted me. I listened quietly. Forgiveness takes time, but it isn't impossible. Noah proudly showed me all his toys, and Claire asked about the bakery, about my new life. I told them about Rosa and Daniel, and for the first time in a long while, I felt real peace settle in my chest. As the sun began to set, I stood up to leave. Claire asked me to stay for dinner. I gently said no, my new home was waiting for me. I hugged Noah tight, gave Claire one last smile, and walked away. Sometimes, losing everything is exactly what teaches you what truly matters. Through it all, I had found strength, love, and a brand new beginning.